morning. It is Tuesday, June 30th, 2015. This is your morning edition on I-24 News. Coming up later today, Iran and world powers look set to miss another deadline on the path to a nuclear agreement. Some progress, though, has been made, supposedly, on the thorny issues of military site inspections. Greece's financial crisis delivers a blow to European markets as creditors agree to return to talks following a referendum. And later on the show, today is the 6th International Social Media Day. Yes, social networks rule our lives. We'll take a look at how they change the world. Good morning, I'm Yael Levi, and we begin today in Vienna, where Iran and world powers look set to miss yet another self-imposed deadline on their long road towards reaching a comprehensive agreement over Iran's nuclear powers. The P5+1 and Iran were scheduled to finalize the deal today. But with many of the top negotiators still away, it's hard to see how a deal will be penned on schedule. A hint of possible progress in the talks was given yesterday, when a senior U.S. official told reporters that the sides have drawn up a system which will give the UN atomic watchdog access to all suspect Iranian sites, a main sticking point so far in the talks. Joined in studio by the director of the Arms Control and Regional Security Program at the INSS, Dr. Emily Landau. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Also with us, Tamar Eliam-Gindin from the Esri Center at Haifa University. Good morning to you. Before we break it down, let's take a look at the following report about the latest from Vienna about the Iran talks and break it down after that.
With all eyes focused on the final stretch of the Iranian nuclear negotiations, hundreds of journalists gathered here in Vienna from across the globe, extensively covering the talks that could reshape the international power balance. The ramifications of a potential agreement between world powers and Tehran will affect the diplomacy and politics, economics and culture of many countries, from Russia to France through China and the US. But first and foremost, will completely change the face of the Islamic Republic.
It would be seen most importantly as a political victory for the Iranian government and for the Iranian people who chose hope over isolation.
Many Iranians are closely following recent developments, surprisingly or not, mainly via social media. Twitter has become the main channel of communication in what can be seen as the first signs of the Iranian society opening to the West.
The only reason there are people behind that room is that the Iranian people went to polls in 2012 and said no to 8 years of Ahmadinejad. They chose a path of dialogue with the world and also a path of basically a diplomatic fight, if you will, against the unjust economic sanctions that have unfortunately been put on our country.
The potential success of the looming agreement, alongside the long-term implications, has the ability to also affect the political power struggle in Tehran. Signing an agreement could mean increasing support for Iranian President Hassan Rouhani at the expense of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. But not only Iran and the P5+1 countries will be affected by an agreement, so too will the major opponent to the deal, Israel. In the last 2 years of negotiations, the issue has been vastly covered by Israeli media outlets. Yet this time, in the final go or no-go stage, the absence of Israeli journalists is highly conspicuous. Maybe it's symbol of Israel's lack of influence on the final outcome of the talks.
Let's go first straight to Vienna, where we're joined by the Director for Non-Proliferation Policy, Arms Control Association, Kelsey Davenport. Kelsey, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. I mean, you're there straight where, it's all happening, supposedly, because we don't really know, from, just somebody on the ground in Vienna, and I know that you have a specific form to research yourself, but does it look is there any information that there is some form of progress and that Iran may be capitulating, or that we're looking at a possible signing in the next coming days, if not today?
Well, this is a historic opportunity for Iran and 6 world powers to complete a comprehensive nuclear agreement that will restrict Iran's nuclear program and put in place stringent monitoring and verification mechanisms. There are still a few details that remain to be overcome, but it's clear that important progress is being made towards finalizing the remaining gaps, particularly on the inspections issue and questions about sanctions, and that the political will is there to close this agreement and finalize a deal within the next few days.
Well, Kelsey, as you just mentioned, what do we know of that progress that was made, specifically that inspection? Because a senior U.S. official did come out yesterday and say that there has been progress, as you just mentioned. Do we know the details of that progress? The inspections?
Well, Not all of the details on the inspections are clear yet, and a great deal will remain unknown until the final agreement is actually completed and publicly released. However, there seems to be progress being made on granting international inspectors some access to Iran's military sites, which is extremely important to guard against any covert Iranian nuclear weapons programs. Progress is also being made defining a sequence of questions and answers that Iran will have to provide to the International Atomic Energy Agency regarding its past work related to nuclear weapons development. Getting the details right on both of these areas is crucial to a good deal because monitoring and verification is what will ensure the international community that Iran's program is entirely peaceful.
And that's what the world keeps saying. Kelsey Davenport, you are staying with us because Dr. Emily Landau, who's with us in studio of the INSS, is sitting here tightly on the edge of her seat. And I want to start with you, Emily, and Kelsey can hear us as well. She's in Vienna. There has been talk about progress over the course of the last several days. You're shaking your head. If there is access to some of the military sites, which is what world powers have demanded, not just the nuclear sites, still, the feeling seems to be in Israel, which is where we're sitting, is that this is a bad deal still. Of course, we do not know all the details, but if there is access, why is it a bad deal?
Well, first of all, verification is one of the issues. We focus on, one or two of the issues, and then there are 4 or 5 more very important issues that we don't relate to at every specific point in time. Verification, of course, is one of the central issues on the table. In fact, the U.S. administration has been telling us from the beginning of this negotiation, don't worry, this will be with a very, very strong verification regime. And we know that a strong verification regime means verification anywhere, anytime. That's the kind of verification you need when you're dealing with a state that is a known violator of the NPT. Iran lost the trust of the international community. They have been cheating and deceiving for years with regard to their military and nuclear activities, and therefore you need the most stringent verification regime. Now, yesterday, together with the reports that there has been some progress, right, we saw quotes of a U.S. official saying, we can't demand access to every military facility. The United States would also not agree to that. Now, that statement is problematic on so many levels. Right. Why in the world would that diplomat equate Iran and America? Iran is a known violator of the NPT. Iran has been cheating and deceiving the international community for decades. Iran is a supporter of terrorism. Iran is a bully in the Middle East. Everything we know about Iran, that should be equated to America. This kind of, equivalence between the states, as if we can't demand from Iran what America would not allow, to happen. America is not a violator of the NPT. And this kind of statement is indicative of a lot of the rhetoric that we hear with regard to these negotiations, as if the two sides are equal, as if they have an equal interest in the deal, and as if they have an equal obligation to make concessions. That's not the case. The P5+1 have done no wrong. Iran is a violator of the NPT and an aggressive state in the region. There's no equivalence here, and it's actually a game of compellence. Iran needs to be compelled to return to the fold of the NPT. There's no equal responsibility here for concessions on both sides. That kind of framing is incorrect. It's detrimental to the bargaining position of the P5+1 in the negotiation. It weakens their leverage when they say to the Iranians, we're the same and we each have equal obligations, or as I said, was said with regard to the military facilities. I mean, that is such a problematic statement. Those are the things that, indicate to us how problematic this negotiation has become.
And Kelsey Davenport still with us in Vienna because, you're one of the directors for the Non-Proliferation Policy, Arms Control. If you're hearing this saying here, the verification, is that something that Iran can go for completely? People here in the studio will say no, and it's that type of verification that is needed. And, well, sadly, I think Kelsey Davenport cannot hear us for just a second, but she will be with us shortly, I hope. Tamar, to you, when we're talking about this type of verification, first of all, we know the Iranians are coming back today. Who are they coming back? Zarif, Mohammad Jawad Zarif is coming back. Who is he traveling to Vienna with?
He's traveling with Ali Akbar Salehi, who is the head of Atomic Energy Organization of Iran, and by Hossein Fereidun, who's Rouhani's brother.
And as somebody who's studying, you know, Iranians' moves, thoughts, whatnot, online in the virtual world, so to speak, what does this gesture that there is progress enough that these two players coming into the game might signal a signing, or we really cannot know?
I wouldn't say a signing.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, right now they're saying that we will sign after implementation, because one of Iran's demands is that the sanctions would be lifted immediately with upon signing the agreement. So they say, okay, so first we implement, then we sign.
Right.
So the signing will not be today.
No,
but he has backup. It's.
He has backup, so like in the cachet of that. But as Emily Landau has mentioned, at the end of the day, there's a history of various rounds of negotiations, and I think the distrust maybe towards the Iranians may be from these past negotiations, clashes over the past 10 years. And in the next timeline, let's take a look, for example, at the next timeline made by Gabi Weiniger of the past negotiations with Iran.
I have consistently stated that I'm hopeful that we can convince the Iranian regime to give up any ambitions it has in developing a weapons program and do so peacefully.
All of us were pleased that Foreign Minister Zarif came and made a presentation to us which was very different in tone and very different in the vision that he held out with respect to the possibilities of the future.
We have done significant work. We have made achievements. We have made progress. We have decided to take steps.
Mr. Kerry, how's the talk this time?
Joined again by Kelsey Davenport in Vienna. Kelsey, we were discussing before, I don't know if you had a chance to hear me, but Dr. Emily Landau of the INSS here said that the verification needs to be all-inclusive, so to speak, if a deal is to be a good deal. And there seems to be a, you know, what if it's just partial verification, so to speak, quote unquote, as I'm gesturing my hands right now, when it comes to the Iranians? Can that be a deal that can be considered a good deal? And in the event that there's no deal, what happens then?
Well, I think you've touched on two crucial things. First, if there is no deal, there will be far less monitoring and verification. The international community will not have as clear of a picture of what Iran is doing with its nuclear program. So getting a deal is crucial to increasing the monitoring and verification. Also, the monitoring and verification that's being considered for the final deal is based on what was agreed to in April in Lausanne, Switzerland. And that lays the groundwork for a very comprehensive monitoring and verification program. All of Iran's nuclear fuel cycle activities, from the mining of uranium ore to the actual enrichment activities, will be under continuous surveillance. If Iran wanted to covertly build a nuclear program, it would need to reconstruct the entire fuel cycle. An alarm bell would go off far before, Iran would be able to take significant step towards that action. Also, when it comes towards the inspections of military sites, what the international community needs is sufficient sufficient flexibility to access the sites it needs when it needs to do that. And under the terms that are being negotiated right now, the International Atomic Energy Agency will have that expanded right of access. So this is a very comprehensive system. The P5+1 are really thinking through the monitoring and verification to get it right because it is crucial. And it's important to remember also that the monitoring and verification regime needs to be one that Iran would accept. And while I agree that comparisons between what the US would accept and what Iran would accept aren't helpful, I think it's important to remember that Iran is extremely unlikely to accept carte blanche access to its military sites. And no country would do that. And what's more, it isn't needed to assure that Iran is not pursuing nuclear weapons.
Kelsey Davenport, I want to thank you very much for joining us, and sadly all the time that we have from Vienna, but thank you for being with us this morning. Emily, okay, we're hearing this. No country would agree to access to its full military sites. There is a point in that to be made in many ways. Is that something, though, that the international community should feel is needed in order to also curtail the nuclear progress of Iran?
Absolutely.
Why?
Look, because we know how Iran has been behaving in the past. I mean, we have a lot of information. We're not starting from zero, right, where we're thinking, you know, how we can deal with this proliferator. With regard to Parchin, that military facility that's been on the table for years and in a more focused manner since the beginning of 2012, after the IAEA report came out in late 2011 with all the information that the IAEA has about the suspected military activities. So from January 2012, the IAEA has been trying to get access to Parchin. That's a long time. The Iranians, on at least 6 or 7 occasions, said to the inspectors, okay, come in, giving them the sense that they would allow them into Parchin. Right. The inspectors get to Iran, and then Iran, for whatever reason, says, no, you do not have access to Parchin. We know the games that Iran has been playing. We know that Iran wants to keep its breakout capability. We know that it has not moved away from its military aspirations. When you're dealing with such a determined proliferator, you need a determined stance on the other side. If you start thinking that, you know, we can't demand these things from Iran because who would agree to that? Well, Iran is behaving in a way that you need measures that are different. Look at the inspection regime that was put in place in Iraq after the Gulf War, and after it became clear that even though Iran had gotten a clean bill of health in 1990 on the eve of the Gulf War, after the war it became apparent that they were on the verge of nuclear weapons. There are problems with inspections. There's problems with intelligence. You need this kind of strict verification like UNSCOM. You know, they came into Iraq, and the kind of inspections that they did are very stringent. So now we hear from the administration, well, you know, we can't do those kind of inspections because we could do that in Iraq because they lost a war. So only if you lose a war are you, are you able to put those inspections in place? What about a state that's a sponsor of terror, that is behaving so aggressively in the Middle East, supporting Assad, supporting Hezbollah? Is that not enough to make us feel that we need more strict measures?
You know, it's the valid points of, you know, what type of measure would be in, but I think, you know, that just moving forward, this deal will not be made possible if also the United States does not sign up fully to it. And by that, I don't just mean the United States president, rather also Congress. And that is a time to cue in Rebecca Shimoni-Storley from the Times of Israel. In Washington. Rebecca, good morning to you. Because the clock is ticking on this deal and this item, I mean, when it comes to this deal, if it's not happening in the next several days, or if it doesn't happen by the beginning of July, what is the hardship the American president faces in passing it? And if he's bound to bring it in front of Congress, will he veto? Do we think will he veto a decision that goes against that deal?
Well, good morning. That's
good morning.
A lot of questions.
I know.
So to start out with, it's very interesting because what has ended up giving those of us who are watching talks closely a sense of when the real deadline is, since it seems very apparent that the June 30th deadline is a bit flexible, is in fact the question over congressional verification of any agreement that might happen. In Washington, because of a law that was passed earlier this spring, Congress will have the opportunity to review any agreement that is made. And the trick here is that as long as an agreement is reached before July 9th, Congress will have 30 days to review it. But if the agreement is reached after July 9th, Congress will have 60 days to review it. And that's an important catching point for the administration. They really don't want Congress to review the whatever the agreement is for 60 days, because the fear is that in 60 days, the administration really could lose, that lobbyists and interest groups could manage to push the senators who are closest to the president but are hanging on by a thread over the brink and make them into wary opponents of an Iran deal. And that's the big concern here, which is why here the real deadline, the hard deadline, is July 9th.
Is July 9th.
Now, is that going to happen? Do we think that Congress might actually reject a deal? It's possible. It's entirely possible. There certainly have been voices, and there is, as many opponents of the deal have pointed out, bipartisan wariness regarding this deal. And so the numbers are tight. The numbers are tight for the administration, and that's why we see this pressure to get to a deal before July 9th.
Before July 9th. Rebecca, very well explained, and thank you for being with us, Tamar. You wanted to say vis-a-vis what Dr. Lando said before.
Yeah, just one thing that the Iranian leadership also has to answer to the people and show them that we're strong, we didn't give in, we kept our red lines. I mean, they're under pressure from outside and from the inside as well. I'm not saying... Well, as an Israeli, I'm not saying they should not grant access.
No, unfortunately, the international community needs to ensure that Iran will not become a nuclear weapons state. We need to keep in mind all the time that nuclear weapons capabilities are irreversible. If they get there, it's game over. And that's why this issue is so very important.
And I think time will tell, but for anything, maybe, as Rebecca said, by July 9th, we'll know, where the winds are heading. I want to thank you all of you ladies, for being with me this morning to discuss this issue.
All ladies.
All ladies. Thank you very much. Thank you. Moving on to Greece, this financial crisis appears to be dragging down the entire European continent, with the country rushing towards defaulting on 240 billion euros payment to the IMF and possible exit from the euro, and fearing a major run on the banks. Athens imposed a capital control and closed trading. It wasn't enough, though, to calm European markets that all marked drops over fears that Greece would be heading for a Grexit. Meanwhile, European leaders are pleading with Greek voters to back hotly disputed bailout proposals in a rush referendum scheduled to be held next week. Let's take a look at the following report and break it down from there.
Crisis inside Greece and outside the country. Greek banks and the stock exchange have shut down on government orders until July 6, the day after the referendum on the European bailout deal, taking citizens by surprise. Meanwhile, from London to China, stocks are plummeting in anticipation of an imminent Greek exit from the Eurozone.
I don't think that we can afford to see the ECB allow Greece to be a template for other nations to follow. If they were to be too flexible in the terms and negotiations, fiscally speaking, they might be able to afford it for Greece. That wouldn't necessarily be the case for other nations.
Following the crash, a war of words ensued between Eurozone leaders and Greece. European Commission Chief Jean-Claude Juncker urged Greek voters to accept the bailout deal, stressing that voting no would result in Greece distancing from Europe.
For me, Greece's exit of the Eurozone has never been and will never be an option. But I always told they shouldn't believe that at the very end of the process I would be able to present against all the others a final answer and a final solution.
Juncker accused Greece of, quote, egotism, saying he felt betrayed by the Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras' resistance to the existing bailout deal. The Commission stands behind its last proposal to Greece, which it published in an unprecedented step to expose Greece's resistance to the deal. German Chancellor Angela Merkel said the crisis is unlikely to affect Europe dramatically.
Europe can cope much better with crisis situation like the one we see in Greece right now, because we have achieved a lot together, from European Financial Stability Facility, the ESM, the Banking Union, and a lot more.
Tsipras said he was forced to announce the capital controls after receiving no extra emergency funding. The clock continues to count down for the country, as its debt to the International Monetary Fund is due in just over 24 hours.
We're joined in studio by the chairperson of the Israeli-Greek Chamber of Commerce, Advocate Gila Lieber-Golan. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
Before anything else, let's go first straight to Athens, where we're joined by Strategic Communications Consultant Stratos Safiolias. Stratos, good morning to you. Are you standing in the middle of a street next to a closed bank?
No, not yet, but I can tell you that the situation is escalating from bad to worse. Yesterday I was at Syntagma Square and I watched the no camp. Whatever the outcome, it seems that first of all, the one victim of the problem is that we're splitting our nation in two. It's going to be a rift that will be difficult to bridge. And again, today, we have one last chance. There's one last chance for the Greek government, who is moving outside its mandate, and one last chance for the European creditors. And it's really time for grown-ups to take this opportunity and make a deal. And
I mean, the question is if that's the feeling of most Greeks. Stratos, I want you to stay with us on the phone, because it is make or break time, and it sounds very frightening. Gila, I want to ask you, okay, let's say today is the deadline. Right? Today is the deadline for the first payment, so to speak. Today is the day that Greece will most likely default. Now, what can happen? People are saying, you know, make a deal, not make a deal, talking about exiting the Eurozone. That's not that easy. I think that's what we in the West don't, sorry, we in the world do not understand. You know, what if they come out of the Eurozone, correct?
Okay. This popular word coming out of the Eurozone.
Yeah, the Grexit.
Yes, it's like it's impossible, because when the EU was established, they had treaty between the countries. But at that time, nobody ever thought about the situation that once upon a time, one country will have to live in certain circumstances. Right. And there is no points, they're not regulation, so they just cannot be vaporized out of the Eurozone. So saying that is everybody around, and all the creditors knows it very, very well. And truly, they know it will be a very, very bad move for all Europe and the rest of the world. And this now, even President Obama, who interfered just now again and spoke with the president of France, that both of them will go into this crisis and will help Greece to find a solution with their creditors to make a point where Greece cannot take any more these measures.
If they need a third person. Stratos, really quickly, are people in Greece behind Tsipras?
Yes.
I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I've seen numbers. I know that Tsipras' popularity is falling, but it's not falling dramatically. The no vote was ahead, but this is the numbers are dropping. So,
but sadly, Stratos, all the time that we have, we will be back with you. First, the news. Good morning, I-24 News Morning Edition on this June 30th. June 30th, wow, the deadline for an Iranian. I know, you can't really miss this one. It's the deadline for an Iranian deal. We don't know what's going to happen with that, but who cares? Well, because you're here.
I care.
You care, and you're wearing pink to show me.
Thank you.
That would be Ami Kaufman, ladies and gentlemen, with the news you've missed while scanning the headlines, anything that's deemed worthy to print or that Ami deems worthy to bring to the studio.
Which is much more important, actually.
Exactly. Shoot.
We're going to start with Egypt. This is from the Daily Star. A car bomb just killed Egypt's top public prosecutor, Hisham Barakat. As he's a convoy in the morning, he left his house on his way to work. Nobody has actually claimed responsibility for this yet. The Muslim Brotherhood,
I was about to say, yeah,
said that it denied the reports that it was its fault. And ISIS has yet to take responsibility for it. Having said that, ISIS in the past few months has called for attacks just like this on judges and on high public officials. So we're wondering if it's...
when I said, when you said the Muslim Brothers, because I'm assuming anybody left not in jail of the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt is probably terrified this morning.
So far, this is the highest public official that has been killed by, well, of course, we don't know yet, but since Sisi took power and overthrew Mohamed Morsi in 2013.
From power. No, it's getting, I don't want to say interesting, but it's getting heated up there in Egypt, yes.
Yes, speaking of terror attacks, this is ISIS released an audio clip of the Kuwait bomber, the man who went into a mosque, a Shiite mosque in Kuwait City and killed 27 people. His name is Fahd Suleiman Abdul Muhsin Al-Kaaba. He is a Saudi national, and what is interesting in this report from Al Arabiya is that he flew into Kuwait's airport just hours before he detonated those explosives.
And passed through the whole, and went through security and whatnot.
Went through security. He didn't have, of course, the bombs on him on the plane.
I was about
of course,
to say, but it wasn't on any list. He wasn't on, okay.
No, and he spent a few hours at someone's house, and so they arrested the guy who owns this house and the driver who drove him to the mosque. So those two people have been arrested, but just a few hours. He was on that plane, and then he went in. So that's really interesting.
And I want to say it's the mastermind planning of these things.
Thank you.
Exactly. When claimed by ISIS, but really, sadly to say, well planned.
Very well planned.
Very well planned.
A man gets off a plane and then a few hours later.
And a few hours of bombs. Slightly reminiscent, I hate to make the description of 9/11, because as awful as that was, it was very well planned.
I think that's a good comparison, actually.
There we go.
As if this place does not have enough fences to begin with, Israel is approving a plan to build another fence. This time, it's along the border with Jordan. This is the first segment is going to be 30 kilometers long from Eilat to around the area of the new Timna International Airport, which will open by the summer of 2016. According to ARDS, Israeli defense officials believe that there's a need for this because of Islamic Jihad operatives who might try to infiltrate Israel around that area of the Timna Airport.
Might. Okay.
Might.
So good.
I mean, to me, it's just, more and more fences. I mean, I think it says a lot about Israel that is just building more and more fences around itself.
Fences, barricades. There are those who will argue, and do argue constantly that is what Israel needs. But at the end of the day, it's the Middle East is turning to one big prison, one next to each other.
That's very true.
Yes.
Sticking with Israel, Mariah Carey has come to visit. And this is Mariah, and the reason I'm bringing Mariah Carey is this is our daily media comparison.
So
we're going to start with the...
Are you comparing to her and Sarah Netanyahu? Okay.
We're going to start with the Jerusalem Post. Of course, the regular photo of the celebrity. Now, let me ask you this. Why is it when a celebrity comes to Israel, they always have these pictures with Sarah Netanyahu and Benjamin Netanyahu? It's almost like they come to visit the local chief of the tribe.
Agree.
And so provincial.
Seriously. No. And I'll raise this point, and I'll raise you one, okay?
Okay.
I'll raise you one. My father was an entertainer, okay? My father was a singer. When he went to the States, he never met the president.
There you go. And he should have. He should have.
He should have, of course. But why?
Can you imagine him with Obama? I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. More like Clinton. But
Okay, anyway, but this is not the issue. First of all, Jerusalem Post says that she's here to meet a spiritual leader with her husband.
Who is
well, they don't know. But her husband is, not her husband, her boyfriend. James Packer, a Australian billionaire who's in casinos and online stuff.
No, you know what I've heard? That I think it's this trip that may decide if they get married or not.
Very true. Okay, and the Times of Israel, as we can see, also says that Mariah Carey is moved to be in Israel. So these kinds of they take the more tabloid side. And here I have Haaretz, which is here. I think finally someone does the journalism job.
The journalism as it should be done.
Why is this visit happening?
Why?
James Packer, apparently, this billionaire, is getting very, very close to Benjamin Netanyahu. As we know, Benjamin Netanyahu has he kind of likes billionaires who deal with casinos, and here's another one. And this man apparently bought a house in Caesarea, right next to Benjamin Netanyahu. For the past year, they've been getting very, very close. This is a relationship that I think everyone should watch.
I very much so, and I'm just thinking of the relationship between the wives. Does that mean Sarah Netanyahu and Mariah Carey are going to have sleepovers now?
I don't know.
Does Sarah sing?
I want to be a fly on that wall.
Yeah, okay. Moving along.
Off to the States. Chris Christie is going to announce, he's going to announce his presidency today. He's running for presidency today. That was wishful thinking on my part, wasn't it? I don't know. Is that Freudian?
Who knows?
Anyway, but how do we know this? Because he released a video yesterday, and we're going to watch it. Let's watch a few seconds.
Let's watch the video.
I get accused a lot of times of being too blunt and too direct and saying what's on my mind just a little bit too loudly. I have an Irish father, and I had a Sicilian mother. Now, for those of you hooting, you know what that means, right? My mom was the one who set the rules and set the tone. No suffering in silence. You got a problem? Tell me. She would tell us every time she had a problem, to the point where we were just like, Mom, do we have to hear this?
Can I just say something?
Oh my God, I have so much to say.
Okay.
Yes, go.
All the videos that Republicans have released so far talked about what they've done. You know, that their governors, their record, they've done this and that. Chris Christie just talked for 2 minutes about himself and his mother.
And his mother.
That's it.
That's first of all, he's got Jersey now. You know that. Jersey will vote for him now, as they should.
Maybe.
Yeah, no, clearly. But oh my God, I'm half Sicilian. I'm Sicilian and what, an Irish? Okay. I just want to tell you, I'm German and Polish, and my mother. No, just kidding. Yeah.
I just want to finish lastly quickly. Donald Trump will be fired. You're fired.
Yes.
From NBC. Because of his racist remarks that he made during his announcement that he was running for presidency about Hispanics, that they are rapists, that they bring drugs, that they're not really smart, they don't really do it. So, you know, there are consequences for saying things like that, apparently. Univision, the large, very large Hispanic station in the States, also dumped him from the, you know, they won't show the U.S. Beauty pageant that he owns.
Right.
NBC will not, and there will be no The Apprentice any longer. So, Mr.
First
Trump
of all,
is in trouble.
I think good things are coming out of this election race in the United States.
Yes.
It does. It is bearing fruits, but it is actually the gift that will keep on giving.
And Donald Trump, by the way, said he's going to sue. Of course.
He's going to sue, and he's not sorry about anything, and he's going to sue. Ami, locked with us as we move along. Moving on to our next topic, Israeli Defense Minister Moshe Ya'alon confirmed for the first time yesterday that Israel had reached understandings with rebel groups in Syria, providing medical aid to fighters and civilians injured in the civil war in exchange for guarantees by the rebels not to hurt the Druze minority in Syria and keep their forces away from the shared border. We assisted them, that would be the rebels, under 2 conditions, that's what he said, that they don't get too close to the border and that they don't touch the Druze. Our general policy is that we're not getting involved in the Syrian war, but we will not tolerate any violation of our sovereignty or even accidental fire from Syria onto our territory. We'll act immediately to strike at those who plant explosives near the border or fire at us. Ya'alon also said that Israel has been trying to particularly be sensitive to the Druze population in Syria, given the strong bond with their kinsmen on the other side of the border. Last week, that bond was proven when a group of Druze residents of the Golan Heights attacked a military ambulance carrying what they believed to be wounded militants belonging to the Al-Nusra Front. The bomb killed one of the injured Syrians and left a second one for dead. They also wounded the ambulance driver and the medic. The incident sparked wide controversy, introduced a new worry into the already tensed region. Joined in studio by I-24 News Middle East analyst Ali Waqid. Ali, good morning to you. But also over the phone with us, we are joined by Israeli Druze politician and Kulanu party member, Dr. Akram Hassan. Dr. Hassan, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Hearing what Defense Minister Ya'alon had to say, is this enough for the Druze community up north? Does the community believe it? And will it stop any type of further incidents in the future, hopefully, of Druze Israeli citizens taking matters to their own hands, so to speak?
Of course, it's not enough. I know this information 6 months ago. I told Sheikh Tarif, the head of the Druze community in Israel, about this information, and I told all the leaders, all the mayors of the Druze community in all the villages, that the Israeli army, through the defense minister, they help Jabhat al-Nusra. They support them with food, with weapons, with medicine, with everything. For that, it's very hard for me to trust the defense minister. I respect him, but I cannot trust him. I told my leaders that I know that there are a contract or some relation between Israel and between Jabhat al-Nusra. And I will tell you the truth why we cannot trust the defense minister, because 2 days ago we lost 6 citizens from Hadar, from our brothers there. And Jabhat al-Nusra, they bomb the Druze villages there every day. For that, how Israel can take care about the situation there, how they can control Jabhat al-Nusra, if we know from our experience that you cannot trust these people. They are killers. They are not army that came to help the Syrian citizens. They killed everybody. Also, they killed the people from the Islam, from the same religion.
Right.
For that, we trust only ourselves.
Dr. Hassan,
we will take care about our brothers.
I hear that, but I think no, Dr. Hassan, do stay with us, because it's very important things that you're saying. But if you say that you will take care of your own brothers, you know that the state of Israel will most likely not go for that. Ali Waqid, hold on, just 1 second, Dr. Hassan.
Yes.
Ali Waqid, yes. No, you start.
From our comfortable seat here with this amazing view in the background of the Jaffa port, allow me to correct the defense minister. First, Israel, at the very beginning of this civil war in Syria, gave support and assistance to the rebels of the Free Army, which were considered as the moderate rebels. The Israelis put at the service of the rebels the intelligent information about the hangars of the Syrian army arms that were targeted by the Free Army, and there were coordination between the Israelis and the former chief of Saudi intelligence, Prince Bandar bin Sultan, to train and to support and to allow the rebels passing from one area to another area. And we know the dynamism of the war in Syria, that the moderate rebels represented by the Free Army ceased to exist or exist very modestly, and they were replaced by the jihadists of Al-Nusra Front, the grandsons of the Prophet, etc., especially at the region between Israel and at the borders between Israel and Syria. And very quickly, this assistance of Israel to the rebels was maintained, but the identity of the rebels changed from the moderate of the Free Army to the jihadist of the Al-Nusra. And when you went to Ziv Hospital in Tzfat or other hospitals in up north, you could see doctors and nurses speaking that the wounded are not only innocent civilians, and that there are some jihadists. Now, they were like very silently saying that. When it came to the Druze community in Syria, and some of the doctors, by the way, are Druze doctors in these hospitals, the rage of the Druze community emerged. But the support to the rebels is almost from the very beginning of this war.
But, you know, Dr. Hassan, if you heard this, and I want to make it clear, though, that, you know, we're speaking of information that is coming from up north of no confirmed two sources to speak. That said, just moving this forward, if you listen to Yalon and the community is not accepting it, will the community then, I mean, it's hard to expect Israel, because Israel already said that it will not cross the border and go into the Druze villages from across the border and help the Druze directly. So will the community do it themselves?
We will see. We cannot stand and be quiet to see that somebody came to the Druze villages and kill our brothers and our families with not anything to do. We try with the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister met our leaders, and we spoke very clearly with the Prime Minister about the situation. And we told Israel, if you don't want to take care about anybody, about any groups, it's okay. We don't need the help to our Druze community there, but please don't help another groups against us. If you help Jabhat al-Nusra, and like you know, Jabhat al-Nusra, they are not civilian people, and they fighting to give freedom to Syria. We know about these groups. If they bomb civilian every day, they kill children and women, and they kill civilian people every day. Why I can't trust them? If you have any agreement between the Israeli state and Jabhat al-Nusra to take care about the border against Hezbollah, it's
the field
another case.
They can trust it.
It's another case, but we will not pay the price.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Dr.
Hassan, 1 second.
Take care about our
community. And really community in Sweden doesn't need the military support of Israel. They want Israel to stop supporting the rebels, as exactly said Dr. Hassan.
Dr. Hassan, it's the support that is given to al-Nusra. That is what the Druze community is demanding Israel stop. Ali Waqid and Dr. Hassan, thank you so much for being with me this morning. When we get back, something entirely different. Today marks the 6th Social Media Day, indeed, and we're going to take a look at how social media has changed, if not dominated, controlled, and turned us all into slaves. I said that. First, though, the news. Welcome back. It is still Tuesday, June 30th, 2015. This is still the morning edition on I-24 News. Last I checked, because my Facebook status says so, my name is Yael Avi. That was a good one. Thank you for staying with us. Moving on to our next topic that relates. Social Media Day was first marked in 2010 as a way to recognize and celebrate social media's impact on global communication. While every day is essentially Social Media Day, or OCD Day, June 30th, 2015, today marks the 6th annual official global celebration. And Social Media Day is fast becoming a popular shindig, so to speak, and has spread across the globe to include hundreds of global events that are attended by thousands of people. So, to mark this day, we're joined in studio by journalist and musician, first of all, Noé Allouche. Good morning to you.
Morning.
Yes, hello, hello. By associate professor in the Information School at University of Washington and a lecturer at the Lauder School of Government, Diplomacy and Strategy at the IDC in Herzliya, Professor Karine Nahon.
Nahon.
Nahon,
Yeah,
right?
nice to meet you.
Nahon, nice to meet you. Thank you for being with us. And of course, Ami Kaufman is in studio.
Morning.
Because, yeah, he's wearing pink. But, Professor, I'm going to start with you. Obviously, you know what? Social media needs a day because it... Yeah,
that's it. It's like every day.
Because it's like every day is Social Media Day, and people like Noé Allouche will attest to that. But that said, you know, I think Facebook was created when, in 2005?
2005, 6.
5, 6-ish, and I think maybe that was like the launch. That said, it has become, I don't know life without it. Yeah. The effects it had on you know, if you were to, you know, take a look at the effects it had on mankind, how would you summarize them?
Whoa. So this is very complex, but
I know.
it definitely impacts us on every aspect. But it's not only Facebook, because when you're saying Facebook, you're kind of like giving up your age in a way, because the young generation don't use Facebook. They use WhatsApp, they use Instagram, they use other stuff.
Is Twitter still big with young people?
No, but Twitter is very big with professionals.
With professionals,
with mainly communication professionals, politicians, and other stuff. But how it affects us in every aspect, from privacy that basically has been deteriorated more and more.
I think you're being polite. It's non-existent almost in a way, no?
It depends. You still have a little bit of control on that, but your control is diminishing more and more, because even if you're a non-user, I can take a picture of you, I can put it online, and you have almost no control.
No right whatsoever.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's the small thing. But really, when I'm thinking about freedom of speech, when I'm thinking about people who are talking and expressing themselves, so noise here, there is also a lot of creativity, but there is also the other side. So you can be very famous in one day, but you can also destroy your career in one day. If we can think about David Petraeus, the head of the CIA, that had to resign in one day, basically because his picture was distributed in online social networks. So we get both sides of the story, and it's very complex. Once something becomes viral, it's very hard to control it. So the nice thing about social media is that it enhanced the transparency. But the question is, which kind of transparency?
Exactly. Okay. No. But when you say which kind of transparency, transparency meaning what? The people, the people that want to see everything about us, as opposed to those who don't. I want to talk a little bit about viral things and actually connect the discussion, because Noé, you know, to our viewers, to a mass amount of viewers around the world, you know, they don't know how prolific you are in Israel, that you basically create these mini, you know, viral videos. Yes. First of all, how did you come about to start with, you know, these videos?
It's all become like natural to me after I found that there is a thing that's called YouTube or Facebook. Like when I understand as a musician or as a journalist that I have like the opportunity to upload something and then a lot of people can see the stuff, then I start to realize that I want to do something creativity every day and try to reach a lot of people.
And I want us to take a look at some of the examples, because it will lead us back also to the professor, and because the mass amount of power and what can be done. I mean, you first, to me, came into fruition, so to speak, I think, with Gaddafi. Okay, and just to give our viewers a bit of a taste of this is something that Noé Allouche did when Gaddafi was still alive. So let's have a look. Yeah. Well, good for you that you know. That you never got to meet him before that. Very famous speech you took. That went viral.
Yes. I think this is the real thing. Like when I saw it, it was like at 8 p.m. in the evening.
When he gave the speech.
When he gave the speech, I saw it on the news, and then I saw it, and I thought that it could be something really funny, and I could put music on it. And then like an hour after, like I downloaded it from YouTube, and then I started mixing it, and after 2 hours, I upload it again to the internet. And then like after 5 hours, it's like become a global hit, like 1 million views. So this is the real internet for me.
All
because
of them from Tripoli, just kidding.
Yeah, because I download something for YouTube, and then I do it in 2 hours, and then I upload it to Facebook and Twitter and send it to a lot of people.
And it's the immediacy of this that is insane. And before touching on how you actually make something or tips of making it viral, but Professor Nahon, when you look at that, because I want to touch on the Arab Spring, many will argue, I'm the first of them, that the Arab Spring, for example, in places like Tunisia and Egypt could not have happened if it wasn't for social media.
Yes, exactly, there's a big but. You forget that only 2% were connected to Facebook at the time of the Arab Spring at Egypt, and same thing about Tunisia, although Tunisia was, I think, 4%, but it's very small number. So I think the main impact of, it was critical to have Facebook, the main impact of the social network at that time was really discussing and passing the information to journalists, to media, to the outside world, which before we didn't know what was going on in those places. So it was very easy to control those kind of events, those kind of protests.
And when it comes to social media, speaking of communication as information to Westerners, I always have a feeling that in 2009, one of the things that destroyed the Iranian Revolution was Twitter. Because journalists had no entrance into the country, and then they were relying on tweets that weren't actually coming from people from Iran.
Yeah.
Isn't that the case? Yeah.
Yes and no, exactly.
Okay.
Again, everything is complex. Actually, the Twitter allowed people to understand that there's something going on in Iran, but we forget that Iran is it's an authoritarian regime.
Exactly.
So eventually, they can always use the force, this is what they did, in order to make this protest, come down and whatever. But we have to remember, again, social media has the power to challenge the power structure of society, and this is what we saw in the Arab Spring. This is what we see exactly in Israel as well. If you recall, we had our own protests in 2011, right? The tent, the tent movement.
Some
exactly.
of us vaguely remember it. Yes.
Exactly. So we have it. So social media can really create this virality that really challenge the power structure. It enforces governments to act in certain ways. For example, when we had the Occupy Wall Street, we had the policeman that was pepper spraying, students. That became viral, and consequently, he was fired, the head of the department was fired, but more importantly, all the guidelines about how you treat protests from policemen in California was changed accordingly.
So it can have that social
Exactly.
It can have that social influence, but also many, many dangers. But
of course.
I want to move to Israeli politics because Noé Alish, I really think that's your forte. In many ways. And just to make that point, because there were elections in Israel here not a long time ago, one of the people running was Mr. Herzog, or as he's referred to as Bougie. And this is what you did with the current opposition leader, Yitzhak Herzog. Let's have a look. Yeah. But first of all, I mean, it's him, but I also remember what you did with Miri Regev at the time. Israeli politicians, easier to turn them into viral?
Yeah, of course, because they are very loud, especially Miri Regev. But like in Herzog, it was like his voice, like with the thing when he started to shout the Ma'apach, Ma'apach, and everybody started laughing about it. And I must say, this is one of my lowest view of a video, Herzog, because people always...
Of him specifically, or of your videos in general?
Herzog, in general, because people always use that I'm like having a satire of the government, and then I like
and
doing
then you
something...
upload the other guy. What are you doing? But it makes me wonder, when you look at something like Benjamin Netanyahu did over the course of... Or actually, for both of you, there's something that Benjamin Netanyahu did at the end of the last elections, which was come out on Facebook and actually state, to his constituency, run to the polls because the left-wingers are putting Arabs on buses. That's And people say that tipped the election.
In fact, through the social network, we could have seen that the right wing has a kind of a advantage. So if you looked at the number of posts, the number of shares, the number of likes that Benjamin Netanyahu, that Naftali Bennett, that all the leaders from the right wing were having, Miri Regev, Dani Danon, they were much higher than the left wing. So that was interesting. So that was very,
Is
very...
that a form of knowing how to utilize the web better, or is it more of an indicative of how, you know, people lean towards when it comes politically? How can one,
It's hard to say, but one thing that we see that even today after the election, Benjamin Netanyahu has much higher number of followers, likes, and shares for every post that he makes. Now, you can say, okay, he's in office, so he gets much more attention. From people. And he utilizes and exploits it, so he knows to do it well.
But there's like a list of new, because there will be new platforms soon, right? Q and Mr. Kaufman, who is, by the way, our viral spiral guru. Hard to believe.
I would not.
But there are like new, because as you said, you know my age because I said Facebook, how pathetic. But there are like new platforms coming out, right?
Yeah, there are new platforms, and I think
Karine
said that it was right. It's all about the age thing. This is all the rage with the youngsters. Snapchat. I mean, I don't use Snapchat. Most of the youngsters use Snapchat. It's a service where you can send pictures and videos to your friends, but it only lasts for a few seconds, and it disappears after a few seconds. So kids are they're really sending kind of risky pictures of themselves, and it's supposedly a bit safer, although there's a bit of a debate, if I'm correct, how safe it is, because basically I think you can take a screenshot while the picture is there, and then disseminate it in other ways.
Stay in some kind of cloud eventually? No, I don't know.
Well, I guess if you take the picture on your iPhone,
the NSA can reach those
pictures. The NSA can reach anything, right?
I think it's really great for politicians to say something, and after
1 second,
by the way,
I didn't
that's
say
the mistake of politicians. We were following them all the time. When you say something on Facebook, it lasts forever. Especially if you're a politician.
Forever and ever.
We download it automatically, so even if you delete it, we have it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because there are actually reports that campaigns in the States now for the presidency are social media people are actually wondering how they're going to use Snapchat in their campaigns.
Oh.
I don't know how that's going to work.
How is it going to work? He said it. No, really, it was there.
A few other ones, Ello, which was trying to be Facebook without ads. I actually signed up for Ello. I haven't used it since I signed up.
I think it's signed up.
You signed up?
Yeah, I think it's...
I have no idea what you people are speaking about.
They lost a lot of steam, but now they're trying... Ello. E-L-L-O.
Okay.
They're trying to get back, and they're doing it by putting ads in Facebook.
That's going to work. Okay.
Another one called Edgy, which is from Berlin. It lets people choose, order, and annotate multimedia collages of other people's content to create like themed displays on topics. So for example, if someone is doing what they say,
organized.
A topic called combating the surveillance state, they'll put a TED talk by Edward Snowden, books by Alan Moore, Glenn Greenwald, and it'll just be like a page of a topic. And Quora is like for experts. If you're an expert on something, people can ask you what you're an expert on.
Yes.
And the last one.
I don't even know why.
Last one I have is a Taxer, which is kind of like, it's almost like Twitter, but it's not, because you don't follow people. It's just only hashtags. Like if you want to search for something, a media event that's happening, hashtag World Cup, you type that in, and then you'll just get everything that has to do with the World Cup. But you don't follow people like you do on Twitter.
Right.
It's all about hashtags.
It's all about hashtags. And which hashtags are also becoming, hashtag is like something that, children already, it's inside, it's in the language. Noy, in terms of, how does one, sadly we don't have that much time, how does one make a clip go viral? What are like the, what are the secrets of going viral?
There is no secret. Like for me, it's have to be something that I really need to listen to the news and see what happened. And then when I'm making the video, it's have to be something like mix between like the news and mix between like the thing that people are talking about.
I just want to add to, cause I'm a big fan of Noy, a huge fan. But I just want to say, for me, it's almost like a perfect storm, because he knows the material, he understands the topic as a journalist, and he's a musician, so he makes it catchy musically wise, and that's just that combined together, I think makes it really perfect.
I must say that you have to listen to the social network, like in the place of Gaddafi or any political remixes. When I see like Twitter in Israel is very popular, a lot of politicians and a lot of journalists use Twitter, and when you read all the stuff, like something happened like during the day, if you're reading all the stuff, then you've got the idea. You can see what people talk about. about.
are trending.
And then when you are making the remix, you know what to
By the way,
take the
that
right
is
point.
how we create a news lineup nowadays. No, seriously, that you look at what is trending, which is kind of frightening because it makes you wonder, who makes the decision. So we're heading towards really quickly, Professor Horner, we're heading towards a situation or a world where it's all just communication that way.
Yeah, we have
Or
to
we're
get.
there already.
It's a space. It's a space, and we have to get used to it. It's not a medium, and the governments and the legislators still are way back.
Way.
And that's
way
part of the
behind.
problems. That's part of the conflicts that we're seeing every day.
Fascinating, Ami. No spiral web, but you were amazing, and it's good, as always. Folks, thank you. Coming up next, everything you need to know about Copa America, the semifinals, 2015. Stay with us. First, though, let's hear the morning news as we do in every morning. Good morning, I-24 News Morning Edition on this June 30th, 2015. This is the deadline for an Iranian deal, for a deal to be struck with Iran, but it has nothing to do with our next segment. Nobody's laughing. Okay, we are joined in studio. I'm trying to get to you, Avborovich. Seriously, Daniel, hold on. I'm trying to get to you. I will make you laugh one day. It will happen.
Difficult in the morning.
It's difficult in the morning. Okay, that is my goal. We are joined in studio by the Culture Magazine correspondent, Daniel Campos. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Yael. How are you?
And
Good morning,
you kind of ventured and you went way past anywhere wherever man landed before, something like that. Where did you go?
I was actually in Gibraltar. I wouldn't
Okay.
say it's exotic, but
is very
it's
exotic.
like in between. Some people say it looks like Eilat, but with more culture, more obviously more history, way richer history. But it's a very interesting place, and I was there for the Gibraltar World Music Festival for the 4th edition.
Which I've never heard of in my life. Interesting. And you actually had a report about this.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Let's have a look.
Welcome to Gibraltar. This tiny enclave is famous for its imposing rock, with over 150 secrets and enchanted caves. The largest of them, the St. Michael Cave. Tonight, the rock is illuminated and decorated to host the World Music Festival of Gibraltar.
You're going to attend to 2 concerts. One is called Convivencia. It's made in Gibraltar with a lot of artists from everywhere. And the concept has been created by Françoise Atlan, who's not only a famous singer, but our artistic director tonight.
French musician Françoise Atlan is among those who have contributed to the revival of Arab Andalusian music. Born to a Moroccan Berber father and a mother who was a piano teacher and classical singer, Atlan grew up between 2 cultures. Hesitant to engage in a classical singing career, she decided to go in search of her Moroccan roots.
And went to see what's going on there. That is to say, where I had never been, the Maghreb. And suddenly, I was invited to sing at the Fez Festival. Once there, I realized that the musicians of Fez, they sang the same way my father did at the synagogue.
She is the recipient of the Medici Prize Outside the Walls, which has the mission to save the Arab Andalusian musical heritage and essentially oral heritage. A few years later, she became the artistic director of the Festival of the Atlantic Andalusian Music in Essaouira. Today, the Gibraltar Festival draws its inspiration from its big Moroccan brother.
It's been something in Essaouira, is that ultimately Gibraltar is in a way a continuity of Essaouira. It's in the same spirit of Essaouira, and this is the spirit I wanted to bring back here.
Israel, Morocco, Tunisia, Spain. In Gibraltar, living together is tangible, but this agreement was the result of long preparation.
We sent the pieces, we worked, we agreed on the tones, by email, Skype, WhatsApp, audio. Finally, when we finally met and gathered to work, the meeting in the first song was scheduled to be played only by Jazz Oil at a time, and Amit Chai Cohen, he got up, he started playing piano, and after, Elad. And it was beautiful. The convivenza started to flow.
Et c'était magnifique, c'est-à-dire que la convivencia, elle a commencé toute seule.
The highlight of the festival, Tzur Michelo. This liturgical song, performed by Jewish, Muslims, and Christian musicians, with a gypsy touch. The Music Festival of Gibraltar, in addition to the performances, it also promotes the exchange and creation in the days in which the musicians spend together.
These 2 days of rehearsals are precisely to also see how we preserve heritage. It has ancient melodies of Garnati or Arabic. For example, Kais, the Tunisian pianist, is a jazz musician, but very often he comes back to play Maalouf. Between conservation and creation, programming is like the rock that hosts it. History and future are intertwined. It is this young generation who understood that roots are very important. But the roots, you know, there's the roots, and then there's the tree that gives leaves and new branches. As the last notes fade away in the St. Michael Cave, for festival goers and artists, the spirit of convivencia in Gibraltar will resonate for a long time.
Daniel, fabulous. First of all, two things that struck me about it. Well, Gibraltar, I've never been to Gibraltar. Is it really just the rock? It's just the rock, isn't it?
The rock, the caves, I guess. Yeah, it's very small. You can see everything in a day, definitely. 30,000 people live there. It's very tiny.
30,000?
30,000.
I love the beginning of this report where the guy on stage, you will see a lot of artists from everywhere. What is this festival all about, other than, I mean, it's just, when we're saying everywhere, it's mostly ethnic music, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, the man speaking there, his name is Jan Delgado, and he's a French Jew. He lives in Gibraltar for many years. He's in the finance business. And every year, he actually gets a lot of, we can say, donations and investment from friends of his. For example, Deloitte, the famous accounting firm. Yeah, they also contributed a big portion of money for this festival to take place. They have great sponsors. And I think it's actually wonderful that you have people also, even from the gaming industry, contributing money to bring artists from everywhere for an event like this. Right. This is the fourth time it takes place. And the goal is basically to bring Jews, Muslims, and Christians, and to make Gibraltar a meeting point. It was its rich history. It had a Moorish period, as we all know. It had a Spanish period, and now it's British since 1704. And that's pretty much the goal. Put Gibraltar in the middle, let's say, as a cultural meeting point where musicians from Israel, Tunis, Morocco can come and meet up. I would say
possibly not kill each other and hopefully just make music. Okay. This is what it's the fourth year that this has been going on.
The fourth year, and it's been a success. You saw the concert in the cave. It's magical.
Yeah, no, that's the thing that struck me as amazing, right? Yeah. It's like what you just walked in and the whole thing is the stage is within a cave.
It's magical, definitely magical, and the natural sound of the cave as well, the echo. It's very natural, and the music they're performing. You know, we can say Andalus music began in the 9th century, right, to the 15th century. So we're talking about very ancient sacred music. And also Shavi, which is performed by Neta, which is more secular music from North Africa, is also having a revival through these young musicians, which we see in the story, which are not giving up on the music of their ancestors.
And the music of an old-time music, which is beautiful. Now, it's the fourth year running, but it's kind of festival season in Europe, isn't it?
It is. Actually, we also have a very interesting festival coming up here in Israel in September in Jerusalem, the Sacred Music Festival.
The Sacred Music Festival.
Which is inspired...
Are people like me, case in point, women allowed?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No, we can say secular sacred music festival.
Secular sacred music. What is sacred music?
We can say, look, it's sort of like a labeling form. We can say it's a commercial way of calling certain genres of music which are inspired by spiritual music. For example, we have tuba throat singing from Mongolia and the Tuba region. That can be considered also sacred music because they're praising God.
Got you. Okay.
Also
okay.
Andalus. We have different genres, styles of music.
Of sacred music. Fascinating. This is all in the Culture Magazine. Daniel, thank you so much. And, you know, the music that is sacred to Borovich here right next to me. I got a smile. Is the music of sports. So, as the music of sports, Mr. Borovich, what do you have for us today?
Sports and music go together, and we could have
actually
heard,
they do in many ways.
Yeah,
I think,
nighttime, Santiago, Chile, we heard chantings of tens of thousands of people. The whole country is basically rejoicing and singing in praise of the Chilean
over Chile because who won?
National team that advanced to the Copa America final. And this team, we see La Roja, the Reds, they're beating Peru 2-1 in a very dramatic and quality match. overnight, and they'll be playing in the finals against the winner between Argentina and Paraguay. And Chile never won the Copa America. We're talking the biggest event in South America. Which is huge. And Chile, you know, the whole country is behind this team. The people are really going berserk there, and they want to win it so much. Here we can see the winning goal of Eduardo Vargas. Look at this gorgeous shot.
Beautiful.
And look how happy this guy is, and the people in the stands and the whole country, which is a very, very big story in South America.
In South America. And the finals are when?
The finals are during the weekend, and tonight we're going to have Argentina with the great Leo Messi against Paraguay. Also going to be
Paraguay
exciting.
doesn't stand a chance?
They're underdogs for sure,
But
in the quarterfinals they beat Brazil, so
it's
everything is possible.
And just wondering, how important is the Copa America?
The Copa America for those teams is the second most important tournament behind the World Cup, so it's huge. It's just huge. It happens once every 4 years, and the whole continent is basically following.
It's almost as big as the music festival in Gibraltar.
Almost as big. Almost as big and almost as beautiful. Yes.
Exactly. Okay. So we've got that, and that's the pretty side of the sport.
Let's move from South America to North America.
Please.
Yeah, and over there we're talking something that is not as beautiful, and basically
to say the least. Yeah.
We're talking about the feud between the Israeli coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers, David Blatt, a guy you hosted. You know, he was here in our station a few times already. Yes. We all know him. We all covered him. Him against LeBron James. LeBron James, the biggest star in the NBA, the
Jesus of basketball.
The biggest star in American sports. LeBron James is just huge. And the thing is, there is a cold war between the star player and the coach. They're not really talking to each other. They're kind of talking about each other behind their backs.
And we have a report. Let's have a look.
By Bogut to get it free. James!
The Cleveland Cavaliers may not have scooped the jackpot this season, but for Coach David Blatt, it was great preparation for the future.
It was a very special season for me. Great challenge, great learning experience. More than anything else, you know, I can come back next year and feel very, very comfortable in what I'm doing and in where I'm working.
The Cavaliers featured a young team and a new coach, but despite this, they were very impressive, making it all the way to the NBA Finals, only to fall short to the Golden State Warriors. But at a news conference he gave back at home in Israel, the big topic for Blatt was his experience with LeBron James. The Israeli coach had only positive things to speak of in regards to his relationship with the NBA superstar.
By Dellavedova.
I can tell you that we both want the same thing, and we might not always agree on everything, but we learn how to work together in a positive way, and we'll only get better as long as we work together.
Another challenge Blatt had to deal with was the contrast between the NBA and basketball in Israel and Europe.
The game is different, and I thought it was not that different. That was the thing I learned more than anything else this year. I said to everyone, well, it's just basketball. You know, I'm going to be living in a different place. But I was wrong. The game is different. Everything is different.
Israel can be very proud of Blatt this season, a point he readily acknowledged.
I want to thank the whole country because as far as I heard, they took a big interest in the NBA and supported our team as well as me.
Israel's hope is that Blatt will go one step higher and top his achievement of being the first Israeli coach in the NBA by becoming the first one to win the NBA championship.
Yeah, no, before you continue, it's just that, you know, David Blatt clearly, you know, for Israeli and Jew, but it's like he's become the NBA for Israelis in many ways. But what is going on between him and LeBron?
What's going on is that LeBron James doesn't really want to be coached, and he doesn't want to be coached by David Blatt because LeBron James, who is the best player in the NBA, is also a very high intellect basketball guy. So he plays the game.
What's a high intellect basketball guy?
He's very smart on the court. It's not only that he's a huge athlete, but he's also very smart, and he wants the team to play his way. David Blatt is a great coach. David Blatt is a great coach that experienced great success in Europe, but he came to the NBA at the age of 55, LeBron never heard about the guy. LeBron says, this guy who came from Europe, who I never heard of, he will not tell me how to play the game.
Wow.
And there were a few points in the season that David Blatt said, we're going to do A. And LeBron said, no, we're going to do B. And the final award in Cleveland is LeBron's, because LeBron is making,
really?
You know, David Blatt is making about $3 million a year.
Right.
LeBron James said no to $21.5 million a year.
Well, it's too little?
It's too little. Yeah, you know, you can understand.
No, completely.
You can relate to this. Yeah, we don't
I
leave.
said no to 23.
We don't go to work for less than 20.
No.
Yeah,
exactly.
So for LeBron James, you know, his gravitas, you know, his status there is so much stronger than David Blatt's, and David is not used to it because in Europe he was the king. Every word he said.
But and isn't that also usually the case? I mean, and I'm asking you, and the coach at the end of the day should have the final say. No,
should. But the NBA is a different game. It's a game of superstars. LeBron James is not only bigger than the coach; he's bigger than the owner.
Right.
He's the biggest thing that came out of this town in the last 100 years. He's just, you know, he has an influence on the economy in hundreds of millions of dollars per year. So you don't tell that guy, listen, shut up and let the coach tell you what to do, because he will tell you, listen,
you're not the coach.
I won't be playing here. So you just don't do that, and there's a big friction between both of them. And now the big question is whether David Blatt will stay. David Blatt experienced great success in his first year. He took them to the finals. He has a contract for 4 years. But if LeBron comes to Dan Gilbert, the owner, to his office and tells him, listen, I don't want Blatt won't be there.
He won't be there. Sadly, all the time we have, because I could talk about this drama forever. But I-24 News Morning Edition wrapping up. Do check us out to hear all about this on Facebook, Twitter, all those social networks. And of course, tune in tomorrow morning for another edition of the Morning Edition. And now the news.